Look at the Sichas, Chelek Yud, Sicha Beis. So this Sicha, as Hagdama, the Sicha, a few things to go through before. The Sicha is a Sicha, it's a Rashi Sicha. The Rabbi is going to ask a few questions on Rashi. There's many klalim on Limud Rashi, many klalim on how we learn Rashi. One of the most fundamental klal of learning Rashi is one of the fundamental rules when we learn Rashi is we have to understand that everything Rashi is saying is Pshuta Shel Mikra. He says, the Rashi himself says that he's only coming to explain the Pshuta Shel Mikra. So when Rashi says something, it has to make sense. Al Pi Pshuta Shel Mikra, and there must be the simple explanation of Torah. There must be a reason that's why they're. That's what Rashi's giving a perush, giving an explanation on something. Something's not understood Pshuta Shel Mikra. Another one from the many fundamental klalim of learning Rashi is that Rashis have to shtim, they have to fit with each other. So if you have a Rashi that's seemingly contradicting or not understanding without understanding what Rashi is saying between the two different psukim, then they have to be explained. What does Rashi mean? Why is Rashi saying seemingly saying one thing in one place, another thing in another place? Because they all have to fit together. The same thing is also that Rashi, has to fit with the flow of the psukim. It can't be Rashi's not coming explaining each pasuk as it's an individual pasuk. Rashi's coming to explain his pirush explanation on the Torah, the way it fits in with all the psukim in the Torah. So with that Akdama, we're going to go through this. We're going to go through the Sicha. It's technical. Rashi, the Rebbe asks some shilas on Pirush Rashi and gives an answer, and then takes it, brings out a deeper explanation, a outcome from Pirush Rashi. The way we understand it, there's something of Halacha you can understand also. So, Parshasenu Masupar Ala Masav Masan Matan Sheben Eliezer Mishpachas Rivka B'Kesher Nusi Liyitzchok. So Parshas Chaye discusses one of the things. Discusses the back and forth of the shidduch of the match between Rivka, Yitzchak and Rivka, and also the back and forth of Eliezer, Eved Avram, the servant of Avram. While he was arranging the shidduch, there was a lot of discussions back and forth. So a big part of the parsha is discussing this issue. Pirush Rashi. Pasha zu onu mitzim kamen yonim adershim bir hein beteichnom behein b'ashvasim zalazah. So in this parsha, specifically in Pirush Rashi on the parsha, there's a few Rashis that need explanation in what the Rashis mean themselves and how they fit with one another. So there it begins. Al pasuk v'nishala espia, pasuk where it says. Eliezer meets Rivka and goes through the whole thing. He makes he's speaking to the Eibishter, speaking to God, and saying that this is giving his criterion how he knows if he found the proper wife for Yitzchak. And all of a sudden, Rivka comes out, then everything fits in, and then she goes back and she meets Lavan and Besuel and Lavan, and. They say, and then they discuss. There's a discussion over there, and Eliezer goes and tells Lavan and Besuel everything that happened, and then he goes into their house, and then all of a sudden Besuel and the mother of Rivka, they're having a discussion. So initial Espia will ask her, Pirush Rashi, Mikan she'ein masin seisha ela medaita. Rashi says, from here you learn that you can't make a shidduch, you can make a suyin with a woman. She has to, without her knowledge. You have to ask her first. So what happens is Lavan and Eliezer wakes up the next morning. He wants to take Rivka back to Avram and Yitzchak. to get the shidduch started, and they say, wait a second, we have to wait a little bit. Yom Yoser. We'll get to that in a second, what that means. And then he says, what do you mean? Why are you stopping from going? So he said, the initial SP, we're going to ask her. When she comes out, and they go and they ask her. So, and then they ask Rivka. So the initial SP, the Rashi stresses over there, Lavan and Rivka's mother, the brother and the mother of Rivka, say we have to ask her permission first. So why do Rashi stresses over there is B'daik. From here you see that you don't do a nesuyin, you don't make a shidduch without asking the woman first. The Rebbe says you have to understand this Rashi. What's Rashi saying over here? But psukim before this, many psukim that's going on that predate, this conversation that happens with Eliezer, Lavan, and Rivka's mother. What happens? Vayan Lavan u'Besuel, Lavan and Besuel answered. He Rivka l'fenecha, ti isha leveda adinecha, harei shekvar eskim ala shidduch. Okay, then. Well, pizza in Kensachalayim, Locher Lamash, Almu Lakas, and Shalas Pia, Enakavona Latsam, Adavar Shidduch. Elaim, Tissa Lechem Yad, is just Akev on Meshachzban, Meshachzan Kidivreya. So Rashi is saying, the Rebbe is asking a question. If you go back, a few psukim, there was already a conversation that Besul and Lavan listened to Eliezer, his whole story. And he says, "Hashem yotza adavar." From God, this thing came out from Hashem, and they were asking that the shidduch should happen. He didn't kach. So they was asking us. But later on, they're saying we have to ask for permission. The shidduch was already happened. What is later on the next morning after this discussion already happens? Rivka and Lavan and Rivka's mother are asking the permission from Rivka already. We already discussed the shidduch was happening already. L'chayra. So this that they're asking, so the Rebbe says you have to say that this that they're asking her, initial SPA will ask her, was not about the etzem shidduch. Because that was already, we knew already. So what they're asking her, if she should leave right away, or if she should stay at home for a while to prepare for the wedding. Not like Rashi is saying now. Rashi is saying now that this is the etzem shidduch. We have to ask her. From here, you don't make a shidduch without asking the woman. In Maaseh Sicha ela b'daita. They did the shidduch already. This is just l'chayra pshutishan nikra, the simple explanation. If she's going to wait a little bit or she's going to go right away. Like Rashi, not like Rashi is saying right now. That the question they're asking Rivka is in the etzem nusuin. So that's the first question the Rebbe asks. The Rebbe, in short, the Rebbe is saying that this question, the simple explanation of Torah was not on the etzem shidduch, not on the question, do you want mishadach with Yitzchak? The question was, do you want to go right away? Do you want to wait a little bit? How do we know this? Because if you go psukim before, we know that the shidduch was already made already. So the question, Muslim Zagin, you have to say, comes out that the question is only about, should you go right away, because that's the discussion right away, or later on. Second question. The pasuk that says, and the brother and the mother of Rivka said, Pirush Rashi right away asks, Rashi, is coming to explain, Besul Hechen Haya, where was Besul? Over here it says the Besul having discussion is Besul and Lavan. All of a sudden Besul is not there. Besul is not there anymore. It's Lavan, the brother and the mother, right? It's Besul, Lavan and the mother of Rivka. Besul Hechen Haya. Where was Besul? Besul's out of the picture. Who Hayaretzel Akiv? Malach v'Misa. So Rashi explains that really what happened was that night after they already discussed it, they went to sleep. They went to sleep for the night. Besul wanted to stop the shidduch, wanted to stop this from happening. Came a malach and he killed him. So now the next morning when Eliezer is ready to leave, it's only Lavan and the mother. From this we understand, from Rashi's explanation, that Besul wanted to stop the shidduch. This is from Rashi's explanation, we see clearly that Besul was the one who wanted to stop it. That therefore he's out of the picture. He's there came the Malach and killed him. But now, but the Lavan and the mother of Rivka, the brother and the mother of Rivka, had no problem with the shidduch. They didn't want to stop the shidduch from happening. But according to Rashi's Pirush on these psukim, it also seems that that Lavan and the brother and the mother of Rivka also weren't didn't exactly agree to the shidduch. Why? Rashi, Rivka, like the next pasuk when they ask Rivka, do you want to go? You want to go? What does she answer? Elech. So Rashi shelves on the word elech. Ma'atzmi, I want to go by myself. I for sure want to go. Even if you don't want me to go, I want to go right away. Why? What's going on here? She's feeling that they don't want the shidduch to happen, so she's coming out and answering. Not only do I want to go, even if you don't want me to go, I want to go. So she's preempting a discussion that maybe you shouldn't go. So it seems like there was a little friction. There's a little friction from the answer of Rivka, and the way Rashi explains the answer of Rivka, there was friction about even with the brother and the mother of Rivka, if they were so if they agreed to the shidduch or not. The Sashka said, even if you want me to go or don't want me to go, I'm still going to go. So again, it's a little bit of a stira not a stira. It's a little bit of, we need an explanation. It seems like from the Rashi beforehand, that only Besuel, the father, did not want the shidduch. He wanted to be ma'akiv, he wanted to stop it. Therefore, they came the malach and killed him. But the mother and the brother and the mother were okay with it. But later on, when they ask her, you see that she's preempting. Even if you don't want me to go, I'm still going to go. So again, it seems like they're not. It seems like they're not 100% masked on the shidduch also. That Rashi has to explain that. So again, it's in Pirush Rashi. And the way the Rashi is explaining the psukim, it's a little bit, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a stira, but it's a question, what's going on over here? Now, on the other hand, totally, so that's in Pirush Rashi, these few Rashis. Another Rashi says, and we can ask a question even before we get to these Rashis. If you read the psukim before these Rashis, when Eliezer first meets Lavan and Besuel, right away they were masking on the shidduch. They say they listen to what Eliezer says, and they say take her and go. So after we know Rashi gives us the klal that we don't do a shidduch, we don't do nisuin unless only if the woman agrees to it. So from the beginning, before we even got to this discussion, there's a question: How was Besul and Lavan able to be maskim, to agree to the shidduch without asking Rivka first? I believe she's how could they say they said he did Rivka take her. We agree. So how are they allowed to answer that without asking Rivka first? So before we get to the Pirush Rashi, the explanations of Rashi, the way he's explaining it, there's a shala beforehand. If Rashi says the way Rashi brings out a klal that emas and isha el b'daita, you don't make a shidduch, you don't get engaged to a woman only from her, only if you ask her first, you don't make an engagement. So how do they agree to it in the beginning? And then the second question is kach v'lech. Now that I was going a little more into the details. Kach v'lech. Take her and go. So take if right away. You want to go take her right now. Meaning, what's the discussion? Okay, you told us. We hear your story. Mashem yotza davar. This thing came from Hashem. The whole Eliezer's whole story. Here's Rivka kach v'lech. Harei neis l'b'sul. There's a klal that when a woman gets married, first marriage, you have to give her 12 months to get ready for, which we can see later on in more detail. So how will they first of all, how are they allowed to be? How are they allowed to, make accept the shidduch? How they're allowed to, agree to the shidduch without asking her? Number two, there's a klal. You give a woman who's getting married, for the first time, you basically there's 12 months to prepare for the marriage. So what's going on? Base before in the pasuk Teshav Itonu Yomim Oyosar, the pasuk where Lavan, the Lavan and the mother of Rivka say the girl should sit with us Yomim Oyosar. After Rashi explains the words Yomim Pasuk, Rashi explains it means a shana means a year. Rashi adds the girl should stay with us yamim ayos. So Rashi explained yamim over here means what? It means a year. He adds something he adds not only a year, he adds to his explanation. So we give a basula, we give a woman who's getting married for the first time, Yud Beis Chedesh, in order to get ready with the presents, with the preparation for the wedding. Yud Beis Chedesh. She needs that stuff. She needs to have stuff to prepare for a marriage. So you give her 12 months. So now, the Rabbi asks a question on this Rashi also. You have to understand. We need to understand something. It's a simple understanding. Everybody understands. It's self-understood that when somebody's getting married, particularly for the first time, you need to get prepared for them. You need to prepare for the wedding. The gam haben chamish lemikra yeda davarza. Ben chamish lemikra. Somebody who's learning the simple explanation of the Torah understands. You say the girl should stay with us, a year or 10 months. What do you need? Ben chamish lemikra. Somebody, a child starting to learn chumash understands that you need preparation in order to get married. Muvenes b'pashos b'kashos achivi ima shelivka akiv ima meshach zman ma kosher b'pshut shmilk shashe meteres al yidei mvur atam b'kashos shekach neisim chul. So the Rabbi is asking, what's Rashi not understanding over here? What's not self-understood? The Rashi needs to come and say that for a woman getting married for the first time, you give your Beis Chedesh. Everybody understands this, that you have to give time. And then because of that, he has to add, the explanation that he said, what does make a difference? Everybody understands that their want, the brother and the mother of Rivka asking Eliezer that she should wait here for a year or 10 months is self-understood that she needs to prepare. It makes sense. So why did Rashi have to come and explain anything? If Rashi needs to come and explain why Yud Beis Chedesh 12 months, he says Yomim. Yomim means a year. So he explains Yud Beis Chedesh. Why do we need Yud Beis Chedesh? In Kain Havei Levar Gam Kain Loma Eser Dafka. So if he needs to explain why Yud Beis Chedesh, because she has to find Saz B'Tachshitim, so then they ask for two things. They ask for what? Yud Beis Chedesh, Yomim Ayasar. If you're giving an explanation for Yud Beis Chedesh, so give an explanation for Asar. What's the explanation for Asar? Why 10 months? Why 12 months? So why 10 months? Why specifically 10 months? Rashi leaves that blank. Rashi seems to think that that's self-understood. That's self-understood, but not Yomim. So if Asar also should be self-understood, so is Yomim. Second question on this Rashi. שביקשו יובס חדש ולפי שכן שיר בדידה דן, היינו לפי מצב פרנס של רבקה, צריך יובס חדש. So you could say, it's possible to say, to explain. that in the simple explanation of Torah, we're saying over here that according what's the Yud Beis Chodesh, the 12 months, that was what it took. That was the zman that it took over here for Rivka to prepare for herself. According to her situation, in order to get herself ready for a wedding, that's Yud Beis Chodesh. Sicha Yud Beis Chodesh. So now, Menolon Menaksuvim Shekach Neisel Besula Stam Hainu Shu Minig Ragal Mukubel Skimal Minigzah. So she needed. Where anywhere in the Pesukim do you see? I mean, we're understanding this. The Rashi is bringing down that that Yud Beis Chodesh means what to get. It takes 12 months for it to get ready for a wedding. According to her situation, Yud Beis Chodashim to get ready for the wedding. Where do you see anywhere in the Pesukim there's even alluded to this idea? Maybe it takes one week. Maybe it takes 2 years. What's Yud Beis Chodesh? Where's Rashi getting this from the actual Pesukim that's going to take, according to the Matzav, according to the situation where Rivka finds herself in, she's going to need Yud Beis Chodesh. And because of that, that's why Rashi explains Yom means Yud Beis, because it's going to take her in order to be in order to get herself ready for the wedding. It's going to take her Yud Beis Chodesh. Where do you see any of this from Shrup Tishal Mikra? The simple explanation. It's a nice shot, but where's allude to this idea in the Pesukim that takes that amount of time? Maybe it's a week, maybe it takes 2 years. The Rebbe says, maybe you could say on the contrary. They said right away, it says Yomim Oy Osir. Right away, take what? 12 months or Osir? So right away, see, clearly doesn't necessarily need to take Yud Beis Chodesh because they're giving a second option of Osir. The Mikivin should be Kashasam Himshum Shkach Neisel B'Sul Yud Beis Chodesh Matam Levata Shnei Chodashim. If the reason is that they're asking Yom because it takes 12 months for a woman to get ready for marriage, then why give up on 2 months? Why say 10? Instead of Yud Beis Chodesh 10 months? Why? What's the reason? So if there's a reason for 10 months, so if there's a way she can get ready, if they're asking for 12 months for Yomim or Asr, so Yomim is 12 months or 10 months. So if there's a 10-month thing, why would you ask for 12 months according to the Pesukim? I mean, according to Rashi that's explaining, it takes 12 months for a woman when she's first getting married to get ready for a marriage. So then why say 12? What's I say 10 months? So if this is simple explanation, it's simple from the Pesukim, you understand it. So what's the 10 months? Why even ask for it? And if you could do 10 months, why is it Chodesh? So from this, on the contrary, says the Rabbi, from the words of the fact that they say Eser, it means that there's no Zman Kavua. So not only there's not explanation from the simple Pesukim that you need 12 months. If you see that there's no Zman Muk because they say 12 or 10, 12 months or 10 months, a year or 10 months. I'm sure. You set up the time according to the situation that a person needs. Whatever the person needs at that time, that's what you do it. So again, so the Rebbe is asking a question on the Pirush of Rashi, explaining this pasuk. Why does he add the explanation that you need for a woman getting married the first time? You Chodesh. Why does he even need to explain anything? We understand that Ben Chomish Likra understands it. Why does he add Yud Beis Chodesh? Number two, where do you see this from? Where do you understand this from the Pesukim of the Torah that's what they're asking, that you need 12 months to prepare for the wedding? On the contrary, you see that you may not need 12 months. It could be 10 months. So why? So it's not something that it's not a specific time. It's whatever you need to, whatever a person needs to get married. So it could be 10 months. It could be a year. It could be 2 years. Why? So what's Rashi explaining over here? So Gimel, Vabir, an explanation. So now the Rebbe is going to go and go on to a explanation of some, the psukim, and based on the explanation, we're going to understand the connection between the Rashis, how they make sense within each other, and understand what's Rashi, what's the bothering Rashi in these psukim, and what's the explanations of them. Rabbi, pasuk v'nishal espia muchach Rashi on the pasuk v'nishal espia that we should ask her ourselves, ask Rivka herself. Muchach Rashi lefarish she's skandal close hashidduch. Rashi is forced to say that explanation must mean on the shidduch itself, not only on the if she should go right away or stay a little time. No, it's not called shidduch. And not if she should go leave right away or stay a little bit, like it's seemingly the simple explanation from the when you read the psukim. Why? Since the pasuk after this pasuk initial espia, they ask. Rashi explains. Rashi needs to explain. They ask us, do you want to go with this with Imaisha? Do you want to go with this man? So the pasuk itself says, what are they asking? Do you want to go with this man? The question that they asked her was not, do you want to go with this man later or now? The question, do you want to go with this man? Do you want to go? Do you agree with the shidduch? Do you want to go and go back with Eliezer and marry Yitzchak? So you see right away that their question that they're asking, right, is what? Are you masking with the shidduch? On the general idea, are you masking? Do you want you want this match? You want this shidduch? You could ask a question in this that you read the psukim before this. That if you read the psukim that Besul said, okay, she says that they were already Lavan and Besul already agreed to the shidduch, and it was already a done deal. And only the next morning when they woke up, and Eliezer was like, "Okay, let's go. I'm ready to go." All of a sudden, this asking questions. You see, like the shidduch was already done, was already agreed upon. So something happened. So in between these moments, something happened. What happened? They're always rethinking the shidduch. You have to say that because see the psukim, the way they're asking you, they're not asking you want to go now with Eliezer or later. They're asking do you want to go with him. Period. Meaning, do you agree with the shidduch? So we have to understand what changed. What caused this change? And all of a sudden, they're rethinking the shidduch. They're rethinking if they agree with the shidduch. You can understand what happened based on the explanations of Rashi on the psukim, like we're going to say. So now, Rabbi continues. The explanation. The pasuk says, right? So what does Lavan and Besul answer Eliezer after he goes and tells he tells Eliezer Eliezer tells Besul and Lavan the whole story that he made a deal with God, and right when before he finished speaking, Rivka comes out and everything the deal he's gonna ask she's gonna offer me water, she asks my animals water, everything, all the tnoim that he made happened right away. And he repeats everything that happened. What was their answer? This thing came from, obviously this story, this happening came from Hashem, from God. We're not able to speak good or bad. Therefore, Rivka take her before you. Like Hashem said. Rashi explains, based on everything you told us, we're unable to say one good or bad. We can't say, is it good or bad? Clearly, everything you're telling us, based on what you're telling us, we're believing you, based on what you're telling us, that what happened. So Hashem yatsa davar. So it's not going to make a difference what we say, because if it's from Hashem, then the Mashiach is going to happen. So that's what Saul says. He didn't have to kach v'leich. I know. So the Rabbi explains. I know. This means to say, explaining Rashi. Shebedivrei Eliezer loch l'das shema Hashem yatsa davar. Im kein muven shlei nuchal. Ki siruva shel Rivka le'imnu es hadavar m'lavi b'peil. So it's clear from what you told us that it's from Hashem. So if we disagree with the shidduch, or even Rivka this is going to disagree with the shidduch, it's not going to make a difference, because Hashem yatsa davar. So it's not going to change what's going to happen with Peil, because Hashem yatsa davar. This whole thing is coming from God, like you said. Chayinskim will take it. Therefore, they agreed right away. Therefore, even though there's a cloud, you have to ask a woman. You have to have the agreement of a woman if she, for her to agree with the shidduch. But they clearly saw that it doesn't make a difference what she says or what we say. Mashem yatsa davar. So they agreed right away. They didn't even ask her, because it's not going to change what she says one way or the other. We don't have asking Rivka option, but the even though in general you have to ask the woman. So we ask. So based on that explanation, based on the explanation of Rashi, we understand why Besuel didn't ask Rivka to begin with. He was masking the shidduch right away, because Hashem yatsa davar. So now, after this story, Hashem yatsa davar. Now they go. He invites them in. He invites Eliezer in, and and they're eating. They eat, and they sleep over that. He sleeps over that night. So the next morning, the psukim after that, so he gets him the morning, says, let me return to my master. I want to take Rivka with me. Let me return to my master. Then Lovan and the mother of Rivka, the brother and the mother of Rivka, say, maybe the girl should stay with us, Yom Mayasar. So I say, Beres. In general, they agreed with the shidduch. Generally, they agreed with the shidduch, right? What? They're asking that what? That they should hold back a little bit, let her stay with us a little bit longer. That's what they're asking. So the shidduch, Hashem yatsa davar, and it's not going to matter what we say one way or the other. So they're masking to the shidduch. Then Eliezer's ready to go, and what happens? They say, the mother, Rivka's mother and brother and mother ask, let her wait a little bit. So in general, they agree with this. They want her to stay a little bit. Then what happens? Now Eliezer is being a little bit forceful. He says, don't delay me. I want to get back to my master. He says, don't stop me from going back to my master. So right here, he's like, wait a second. Let's go right away. What do we do? Yabim Mayasar? Don't stop me from going. You agreed to the shidduch. I'm going to go right away. Send me back to my master. Then they said, wait, sorry. You want to go right away? Then we have to ask the girl. We have to ask Rivka. What happened is why did they all of a sudden not what did they change? Why did they change their minds? All of a sudden, Eliezer says, let's go. Next morning, a day later, let's go right now on our way back to Yitzchok and Avram. And they're like, wait a second. Now we have to ask the girl. So the fact that Eliezer started getting a little forceful, and then all of a sudden it's not the norm of situations that she's going to wait a little bit here and she's going to stay with us for a little bit is already not in the picture. Now that's what happens when they change their mind. Now, let's ask her. And they ask her, do you want to go with this guy or not? And then she answers, do you want to go with Eliezer? Back to Yitzchak or Avraham or not? And that's what she answers. Whether you want me to go or not, whether you want it or not, I'm still going to go. Mufarish, Shiba Omnum, Teshav and Haritanu, Rashi explains when it says Teshav and Haritanu, Va'achar Teilech, Tanasun Im Haisa Shidduch Nigbar. So it explains that it was a Shidduch done, like complete, 100% canal. Ki ein Shaykh Laman Bazakivon. Since there's nothing to discuss, we already said Hashem Yatzad Dover. So why are we staying here? There's no reason to stay. Hashem Yatzad Dover. So whatever happens is you stay here for the girl to stay. It's not, nothing will make a difference. So let's go right away. So they said no. Nevertheless, even though Hashem Yatzad Dover, we still want 12 months. We stay in Mizu. We keep it to Lezer base. שהציע לשדך לא יסנה, שבניד לא יסנה, שבאשתה מן הרגל תהלך מיד. ובוודאי לדעת לובן שגם הוא הסכוון לכתחיל לשדך בסדר מקום ברגל. So even more than you could say that the fact that there was no discussion about if she should stay or not, meaning it would seem like it was normal that she's going to stay a little bit, and also the next day Allah was like, well, let's go right away. So even Lavan was like, who agreed to it, was like, well, wait a second, let's stop over here. She אפילו דברי אליעזר אין כל ראיה באניסים שאיר אלוהי שמה יצא גם דבר חודש זה הוא זה מטל סופק בכל דבריו. So the fact that Eliezer added something in the sense when he said we're going right away, not the normal minig of the world that you wait a little bit, so it caused the doubt in the whole and anything. So meaning Hashem Yatzah Davar when this happened it's not a contradiction for her staying here a little bit of time. So from this, the fact that Eliezer is being forceful and sort of a little bit changed didn't change it, but he's like, let's go right away, even though that wasn't said, that he didn't say that we're going the next day. Oh, the next morning is ready to go. So they're like a little bit like, maybe it's not exactly the way he said it happened. Maybe the whole Hashem Yatzah Dover is not. So they're starting to think maybe it didn't happen the way he said it. Also the Shtam Matana that he showed them, maybe that didn't happen. V'gam divrei in the flesh she see, but also the wonders that they said, the nace. Only from his words they know this. All of a sudden, according to them, he's changing the deal because he wants to go right away, and it's not going to the miniga elam, and it's not like. And there was no discussion about leaving right away or not. And also, the next day he wants to leave right away. That itself, it puts into question Eliezer's whole story. Maybe the Shna Matana wasn't from that he showed them from Avram, wasn't really Shna Matana. Maybe everything he said, the Nisim and the Flois that happened wasn't. Because on his word, on the reasons of the Nisim, of the wonders, they were masking right away on the Shidduch. Without asking us come over. They say because they blindly believed what without putting in question what Eliezer said. So now that they're getting a little worried if he's not doing the normal thing, and they're questioning Eliezer's whole story. So that's why Nishla Espia. Let's call the girl and ask her on. Now you have to ask her, because now when they're not sure Hashem Yatzad Dover, they're not sure 100% this came from the Yeshua. So now we come back to that Shidduch. So that pasuk. So in the beginning they were masking. Then Eliezer was forceful to say, well, he said, let's go right away. And that's almost something they didn't discuss. It was not the norm of the time. Now they're questioning Eliezer's whole story, because he's questioning Eliezer's whole story. Then they have to ask Rivka, B'Hashem Yatzah Dover. Now maybe they could make a difference if the Shidduch should happen or not. Then they have to ask Rivka. That's the Nishla Espiyah, no, it's some Shidduch. Why? Because you're not gonna, you can't make a shidduch without getting the okay from the woman. So based on everything we just said, Rashi, now we can understand what Rashi is saying. Because that's the normal thing. Rashi is saying that's what we do. It's a normal thing that we give 12 months, Yamim, which is 12 months, for a girl getting married the first time. This is the foundation of what's going on. All of a sudden they're questioning is that Shaloi Bekasha Elataina. It wasn't a request, it was a time. What do you mean you're leaving right away? We give the normal thing is we give a woman a girl that's getting married for the first time. A woman's getting married for the first time, 12 months, and now Teisha ben Ayrod, she has to say it. Then now, so it's more of a taina to that to Eliezer. Now we have to ask the girl. Kach neisen. Ki sofas davar chosh had Eliezer geirim sheachzim al chodos v'agdavis kanal baruch. Because the fact that Eliezer went back, meaning he added a new thing that we're leaving tomorrow morning, not according to the meaning of the world, which now all of a sudden they're questioning it. So it wasn't really about kasha of Yom Yasser. It was a timer. Since this is what we do, so now you're adding something, so we're getting worried about your whole story. Now we have to ask Rivka if she wants to go. So now, based on what we just said, Yamim Yibis Chodesh. So it makes sense. Why also? So why does it say right away? Yibis Chodesh. I mean, their taina was. What do you mean? We say you're adding a new thing to leave right away. They're leaving the next morning, right back to Yitzchak to have the shit done. They're taina. So now that you're adding something new to the story, where we're questioning the whole thing, you have to ask her, and at the time take Teisha Yom Ayasser. Why Ayasser? So Yudis Chedesh makes sense. So why take it right after they say Yomim Asser? Why Asser? Rabbi. Why 10 months? Rabbi. Explanation. Adam Hatamadav Shneisl Lusul Zman Yibis Chedesh Varashi Shugdei Lefanis As Atzbei Betachshitim. So that's what Rashi says. What's the reason why you give? Rashi has to explain. What's the reason why you give a woman 12 months? Because she has to get herself ready to prepare herself with all the different presents and stuff, and get herself ready to make it, to have a home with stuff. After they agreed to the shidduch, before this whole story, right away Eliezer took out klei ches or klei zav. Vitin l'Rivka, and he gave it to Rivka. Mekivish Eliezer kvar pernasa tachshitim. Since Eliezer already gave her some tachshitim, already gave her some stuff, to get ready for the wedding. Asiful tainasam, ayasar. Or 10, meaning it was like it adding to the title. So you're basically to get ready, because that's a normal thing. 12 months to get ready, and now you're going to say you gave her already a couple of things. Okay, so for 2 months, so 10. We need her for 10 months to get ready for the wedding, to get to prepare herself with stuff, with the stuff that she needs to have at home. Even though in general we give somebody 12 months, we need it. In this case, we needed. We keep 10. She already has some of the stuff that she needs to get ready for the wedding. And there. Yeah, that was the shir of the stuff that Eliezer gave her for 2 months. It wasn't like, meaning he gave her klei ches v'klei zav. The pasuk stresses he gave her klei ches v'klei zav, not magdonis, like presents, smaller things. He gave her already stuff to get ready for the wedding, to finance herself. It was for 2 months, so that's what we're saying. So you can tell me that you gave her anything that's for 2 months. So we at least need 10 months. She needs at least 10 more months in order to get herself ready, with all the rest of the things that she needs to start a home. Like the meaning of the thing is. Amar Eliezer Shalchuni, Shekivin Shahaya Tzliach Darki, Mitzhu Avari Rola Hem Shtar Matana, the Kol Tuv Adinov. Yeah. Nevertheless, Eliezer says suddenly right away, because according to him, I showed you a Shtar Matana already. He's saying, I showed you Shtar Matana, meaning everything she needs already, she's going to have with my master Avram gave me a Shtar Matana, everything's the Yitzchak. She doesn't need anything. She go right away, and everything she needs, she's going to have over there. So that was just tying it back. Well, what are you stopping me from doing what I do? I showed you already Shtar Matana. She doesn't need 10 months, she's not a year. Everything she has already. She could go, let's do it right away. That was the conversation back and forth. So based on this explanation, we understand the different Rashis, what's bothering Rashi in these things, and how these Rashis fit with one another. Yeah, the Rabbi continues. There's another, you can make another clarification on our Rashi. On the explanation of the Nishul we should ask her herself. Meshana Rashi b'loshen hamedrash. So Rashi, the source of Rashi's idea is really from a medrash. But Rashi changes the words from the wording of the medrash. What does the medrash say? Ein masin asi yisema elapi. You don't make a shidduch with a yisema only according to her if she agrees to it. Because of what does Rashi say? She'ein masin asi isha elabidaita. You don't agree to a shidduch without asking the woman, asking her first, her opinion. So we have to ask, why did Rashi change from the lashon of the medrash, right? She was a so in fact she was a ketana then also. What's the reason why Rashi changed? Ein masa isha, meaning he's making a general cloud. Rivka was a ketana at that time. So could you really make a cloud? Why is he changing from the medrash? The medrash is lashon. Reshit Rabbi. And he's saying, the rationale there, Yisema over there means katana. Yisema referring to a katana over there. So the medrash is explaining that she was a Yisema, her father died. So only Apiyah. So according to the medrash, everything fits very simple. It's not a problem. She only became a Yisema then. So they had to ask her at that point if she wanted the shidduch. But Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says the Isha generally. She was a katana at that time. So the medrash's lashon makes a lot more sense. So the kavanah Rashi. So what's the kavanah Rashi? Even though what's kavanah Rashi is coming to teach us a very, very interesting thing. Even though he's coming to stress, even though Rivka at the time was Bas Gimel Shana, she's 3 years old. And it's true the medrash's lashon fits a lot more. Ein masan yisayma LLP. Nevertheless, Rashi is telling us that Rivka was considered a gedel over here. What does that mean? What does Rashi mean? So now the Rabbi is going to go into an interesting idea for Parshas Tolos. Parshas Tolos al pasuk v'iglu anorim. Parshas Tolos, Rivka gets pregnant. Parshas Tolos al pasuk v'iglu anorim. They grew up. It's referring to Yaakov and Esav. Pirush Rashi explains over there. Kol zman she'ketanim lo yinikarim masayim ve'ein adam medaktik behem mativom. Since they were children till they turned means they turned 13. They grew up. So as long as they're ketana, people are not medayik on their. People don't look at the way they act, their actions. People are not what's their nature based on their actions. Since they became 13 years old, they grew up. Over there. So it says that after they turned, that's when people noticed that Yaakov was going to the base medrash and Esav was not going to the base medrash; he was going somewhere else. That's what it says in Parshas Tolos. Mishu bardas ubal achrayis. Are ma'asav teitzom is govenas nafshay. But ein lechicha the chunas nafshay shalod al pi ma'asav bekadnusay. She'ein magber ve'ein achrayis al ma'asav. Simple. A person is responsible for his actions, right? And based on if he's a responsible person, you see what type of person he is. But a person is a child. You can't decide the way a child is going to be based on just their actions as a child. They're not adult. They didn't mature. They're not. You can't necessarily judge how they're going to be. Based on the second, we can understand what's Rashi saying. Well, and went somewhere else. Asa went somewhere else. Well, Rashi goes on. He's going on like he's adding. It seems like he's going on a tangent. You can say very simple. Since they became Yud, since they became 13 over here, now at that time, they saw that they saw their actions. This one went there, this one there. Rashi goes, since they were younger, they're younger, they weren't adopted Lamaseh. And other, just say clearly, they turned 13, now we know who they are, based on their actions. This one went based on, Yaakov went to base Medrash, and Esav didn't go to the base Medrash. So moving Lashon Rashi, Shebeim Hayim Medaktim Behem Makir Maseim Kodim Shnasu Bnei Yishana Efshar Shayim Dimat Tuchnosum Gab Kodim Lechem. It's possible if we would have been medaktik in their Maseim, we could have understood who they were as kids. I mean, Rashi is saying that because people are not medaktik in the way people are, what kids are, so people don't see their nature. But technically, if you were medaktik, you could see their nature and how they're going to be before they become a god. Katnus gadlus tali beglil yidul shana. But tiva shall kol yachid befrat. Yesh bezgaber gil bukaydem yesh machas gaber. V'agil yidul shana eina hisim lagadlus ela kein hut ateva api arev. The ben yidul shana nas gadlum seichel udeyo. Oz alvo medaktik boy makiram ma'isa. So what we're saying? We're saying is that it's not. Really, and the truth is, you could be medaktik on a somebody who's a katan, somebody's considered not yud gimel, not an adult, or bar mitzvah, other mice on their mice. It's not mugbal 13. Something happens mysteriously at 13, and also you could see what's going to be, but their nature. No, but some people it happens. And some people it happens before they're 13. Some people it's going to happen after. The famous word, I think, for the Fidig Rabbi, you're engaged in the passport. The years don't go on the passport. Some people you can see who they are when they're kids. See they're exactly their nature as kids that they matured at a younger age. Some people after Yud Gimel they're not sure. And generally at 13 years old, there's a certain amount of maturity of a Rav. The Rav, most of humanity at 13 becomes a certain maturity. So that's when you can, a Rav B'nai Adam, you can make a distinction. But the truth is, for anybody, it's for some people, and you may be able to see the tiv of their nature. In our case, so what does that have to do with us? וינר אשר אומר אלוה תינוק עדיך ואשתך ואשתו ואומרו שסי וגם אויסו וכחתו לעבדך ליצחק. שרס רבקה וירד צהב לקרוסו ואמר הרי שדקתי כמי סוף של רבקה והכיר אויסו על ידי זה ועפי זה ניצו שהאיסו גדולה כבר שבדקתי באב של הקירו מעשה. So in our case, what happens? Eliezer went and he made a simon with himself. And he get a whole situation, an individual, a woman who's gonna offer him water and offer his animals water, and he's all this simonim. And what happens? Rivka was the one that everything that he said, Rivka did. So it seems that Rivka at a very young age, at 3 years old, was already considered a mature person. God had the idea of godless. Please moving dig lashon ein masan isha. That's dig Rashi ein masan isha. Rivka was an isha at this time. Rivka far godla, but isha, but in mind she wasn't 13 years old or 12 years old for a little bit, but in her mind she was a very mature person. She was considered a godl in a sense. So that's what Rashi is like in isha. So this from Rivka you see isha. It's not she's not a kid. It's not a katana. She's just like you say Yisayma. She was considered a godel. So it's another deal that you see from that Rashi. Rebbe finishes off. It's known that from Rashi, there's wonder. You can see very wondrous things, very deep things. Gam halacha. Also, sometimes in halacha you see things from Rashi. Rashi dilan in our Rashi. Bokar did ben shloish asar lemitzvos, shtei days halacha. In the Mokar din itself, of that 13 years old, you become a bar mitzvah, become an adult, so to say. There's 2 days in halacha about this. What do we learn this from? In Parsha, later on in Parshas in Chumash Bereshis, when Shimon and Levi that they took, they were by Shechem, they wanted to avenge the honor of their sister, and they went there. They took a sword and they killed the whole city of Shechem. So it says that at that time they were 13 years old. Because of Ish, because the apostle calls him Ish. The first time it calls him Ish, you see that's when he became a man at 13. Shemeir al gadlus. It shows on their maturity, on their adulthood. These are in TV. Ulufiza in TV. So you could say that at Yud Gimel, what happens? It's a natural thing that something that changes in a adolescent's life when they turn 13. That's when they become an adult in their mind. Or you can say nothing. Or you can say there's another din. It's not about something that 13 something happens in an adolescent's mind that become a gadol das from Shimon and Levi. No, it's Allah Moshe Sinai. It's something that's passed out 13 year bar mitzvah. That's the Mokar din. Machlek is a din of 2 days, and where you learn it from. So I'm nafkin halacha. Maybe say b'nei nech b'kiyum mitzvahs shemitav alayhim. So what's the nafkin halacha? If you learn halacha l'mishim Sinai, or it's from this pasuk of Shimon and Levi that you see something changes at a lesson at 13 they become a gadol. What's it? There's a seven mitzvahs b'nei nech. The seven mitzvahs for all humanity. When is a b'nei nech chayiv in these mitzvahs? L'adei sheyud gimel mitzvahs nubad me'aksuvim u'metam sheteva adam hu shebigil zeh nasa gadol oz kol b'nei noach mechuyev mitzvahs ben yud gimel shon velech. If you learn from the story of Shimon and Levi that something happened from the Psukim of Shimon and Levi that's when they were 13 that day. They were called Ish. That day they turned 13 was the bar mitzvah. And something changes in adolescence, that they become a gadol, something changes. So then every b'nei noach, they're chayiv the mitzvahs of when? When they chayiv the mitzvahs? When they turn 13. Because it's a natural thing in every human being. That's when they become an adult. Because the Torah is telling us the psukim that the teva is that's when a person was adult. So it doesn't make a difference if you're a bnei noach, if you're the bnei noach, or you're bnei yid. At 13, that's rechayiv in mitzvahs. So a yid chayiv in 613 mitzvahs. So bnei noach rechayiv in zayin mitzvahs. The idea is Allah Moshe Sinai. According to the day, it's a Allah Moshe Sinai. It came bnei nech shalahem leitin the shir. Harei the tali b'kolacha leviteva matzav. So bnei nech since if it's Allah Moshe Sinai, and there's no if you the gadol is 13 is the Allah Moshe Sinai. That's only for bnei Yisrael, not bnei nech. So we're not sure. That's not necessarily for everybody. So by bnei nech, it depends when they become a gadol. So now bring it down to back to Rivka and to the office. So B'nai Noach is, once they become considered an adult, that's when they're chayiv in the mitzvahs. Not at 13, according to the second day. According to the simple explanation of the Torah, going through the old life of the office, din B'nai Noach. The office had a din of B'nai Noach. They weren't, they didn't have a din of a yid. Like this. So God lost and told you Rashi she'ein masan seisha Rivka heisa gdelo gam al pi derech halacha. So based on this idea that the obvious were bnei noach, and according to the second day of that Yud Gimel is only is halacha mishsina, that's become an adult. So Rivka was considered a gadol. So Pialach you can learn ein masana isha elamadaita according to that Rashi. This Rashi shows that also ones like their base that Rivka, even though Rivka was 3 years old, because she was mature, she had the din of a gadol, and you could learn the halacha ein masana isha elamadaita. And it's not only for like the medrash. So it's machlekes Rashi and the medrash also. Would you learn the psukim?